Good afternoon. I'm Christine Taylor Lewis, and on behalf of the Afro-American Historical Association of Fauquier County, I welcome you and thank you again for joining us on this, the second of a series of conversations with family historians who will talk about their personal genealogy research. Now, in keeping with AAHA's mission to collect, document, preserve, and share history of our country, with a focus on African Americans in Fauquier County, we're using social media such as Facebook, Zoom, and features on our website to keep the information flowing despite the limitations that are caused by the COVID variants. We had our first conversation 2 weeks ago with Stephanie Addison Mudd and Adrian Mercer. Together, they explained the basics of genealogy research, such as how to get started, what resources are available, mistakes to avoid, lessons to learn, etc. And they also shared some surnames in their family lines going back as far as the 1700s. So recognizing the wealth of information that they both have, we asked them each to give us a return visit. Now, our conversation today is going to be with Adrian Mercer. He's going to tell us about his paternal family line, including 9 generations from Mercer to Stokes. Adrian was born and reared in Bethel, which is an old African-American community in the town limits of Warrenton. He attended Fauquier High School and joined the U.S. Army, where he acquired his GED. He served our country for 20 years until his retirement in 1994. So again, I want to say hello, Adrian.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Good. Welcome back. And thank you so much for your willingness to return and give us more information about your family tree.
Well, thank you for asking me.
Yes, we really, really appreciate it. So before we talk about the Mercer and Stokes connection, tell us again, Adrian, what sparked your interest in exploring your family roots in the first place?
Well, I've always been curious about my family history, and when in the late 90s, early 2000s, when computers came into hand, I started looking because I didn't know who my grandfather, I knew up to my grandfather, I didn't know who his father was. I didn't know anything like that. And I was just curious because now I am part of the senior generation of my family. And the children don't know where their families came from. So that's the main reason I'm doing it.
Okay, so how long has it been again? You've been searching?
It's been close to 20 years, just maybe a little over 20 years.
That's very
good. It takes a long time. It takes a while.
Yeah, well, congratulations, for sticking in there. So it's my understanding that the focus of your research is to document the names and birth dates of as many of your family members as possible. So any other I was just going to say any other historical data about your people would be drawn from your collection of records such as birth and death certificates, marriage licenses, military records, census reports, and those kind of things. But your primary interest is to provide a resource from which your family members and people can find out the names and dates of birth, if they can, of your relatives and all of your ancestors. Okay. So approximately how many family members in your tree were you able to identify, or do you know that?
Oh, the overall tree, not just the Mercers, but the overall tree, I have 4,967 names.
4,000. Wow, that's amazing. That's exceptional. Congratulations. That's an enormous number. So already you have donated to AAHA at least 5 volumes of information and supporting documents about your family history. So talk to us about what's in these volumes in whichever way that you want to begin.
Okay. Well, what's in the volume? What I did, I started out looking for my family, on my grandfather's father's side.
Okay.
And in the process of over the 20 years, I have connected to the Stokes and went further back through information I got from the museum, through information I got in Ancestry, and just people in general on Ancestry.
Okay.
And you know, I was only going to originally to Mercer's, but now I'm down to the Stokes because the Stokes is where it actually started from.
Started with the Stokes.
Right. And it's just, when you do it, you something's going to come up and it's going to take you in another direction. So I limit my directions to, I just get the names, marriages, deaths, that sort of thing. I don't, and though I know about it, I read it, but I don't get, you know, what plantation they came on, if they were slaves. I don't
Right.
do if they you know, built a monument or anything like that. My study and my research is strictly names and locations.
Right. So if they want any of that other information, they primarily would find it on documents that you have in
Yes.
resource volumes that you have.
Right.
Okay, so
And
you said that you started with the Stokes.
That's where it originally starts. I can bring you from there if
Okay.
if you want me to.
So tell us about the Stokes, if you can bring them down through 9 generations.
I can bring them pretty close.
2022.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the Stokes family, the head of the Stokes family that I have is, and her name is Hannah Stokes. She was a slave of Francis Montgomery. And Hannah had 5 children by Francis Montgomery. He never married, and he had 5 children by Hannah. And upon his death, he freed them all. But they had stipulations on their freedom. They had to be 18 years old. The boys had to learn a trade, but he freed them all.
Okay, so this was in Fauquier?
Yeah, well, no, this is in Manassas. This is in excuse me, not Manassas, Prince William County, Wellington area.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tie it all together for you, the areas and the names.
Okay, so I'll just keep quiet and listen.
Okay, so Hannah had 5 children. She had Sally,
Okay.
Sarah, Thomas, Travis, and Mary. One of Mary, I don't have any information on. I can't find anything on her. The other families I do have information on. They go. Let me go with Sarah, Sally. Sally married the Gaskins. That's how the Gaskins come in to the Mercer family.
Okay.
In the Stokes family.
Okay.
Sarah married the Pens. I mean, Sally married the Pens. That's how the Pen family gets in.
Okay.
Thomas, I don't have. He only had 1 child that Sally raised because he died early, and I don't remember who he married. I want to say, I can't remember her name. I didn't look that one up. I apologize for that. Then Travis is my link to the Stokes.
Oh, okay.
Travis is where it starts at for the Mercers.
Okay.
And Travis married Sarah Grayson, and they lived in the Wellington area until they passed.
Okay.
The first daughter of Travis and Sarah was my great grandmother, Hannah.
Okay.
Hannah was born free, and I'm assuming I don't have any proof on George Mercer. Hannah married George. I don't know if George was a slave or if he was free, but I'm speculating from my research and talking and all of that George was free, because at that time, free Black people could only marry free Black people. So I'm assuming with that George and Hannah, George was free. The other reason I think George was free is because George came from, where my family live at now is in Pilgrim's Rest, which is on the borderline of Prince William.
Right.
A little way, 10, 15 miles from there is the Loudoun County line in the area of Aldie.
Right.
Charles Fenton Mercer, a legislator and House of Representative and all of that, lived in Aldie.
Mhm.
He was anti-slavery. He freed all the slaves. By 1830, he didn't have any more slaves. He had freed them all.
Okay.
That area of Aldie is called the Mercer District if you look at the maps now.
Okay.
So I am what I did and what I'm going with until I can find better proof is that George came from there
Okay.
and carried the Mercer name, but I don't have proof of that.
Okay.
But you know, all things point that way, and you know, hopefully one day I'll find something.
Okay. So that was down in like in the Haymarket area.
Yes, Aldie. Yeah, Aldie is Aldie is
Oh, yeah. Aldi. Yeah, on the other
yeah.
side of Middleburg.
Yeah, well, yeah, Aldie's right there, Gilbert's Corner in
Right.
Loudoun County. That's
Okay.
all. That's the Aldie area,
Okay.
which is on the straight line. The straight line goes straight into Haymarket.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So George married Hannah, and bear with me just a little bit. I gotta change screens here. George married Hannah, and over the course of their marriage, they had. I've got the wrong one here. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm gonna come on. Computer's a little slow. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 children.
Man. George and Hannah.
George and Hannah.
Mercer.
They had 15 children. And my great grandfather, my great grandfather was named Henry Clay Mercer.
Okay.
Now, out of the immediate group, I call this the first generation or the second generation of George Mercer.
Okay.
Out of this group, I'm going to give you the family names that who they married into. And starting in order of the children, Mason Mercer was the first child, and he married into the Mills families of Marshall, Virginia.
The Mills.
The Mills.
Okay.
The second child, Sarah, she married into the Bowles of Warrenton.
The Bowles.
Bowles, Vowles. It's spelled two different ways in the census, but Vowles is the correct spelling.
Like Dow's.
Yeah. Or Bowles, but it's just with a V.
Okay.
And where am I at now? Sidney Mercer, the third child, he married into the Dades of New Baltimore.
Oh, okay.
Which was right up the road from where the Mercer family was in Pilgrim Rest.
Right.
And then, as I said, my great grandfather Henry, he married into the Robinsons from Thoroughfare.
Uh-oh.
And then who we have? We have Maggie. She married a Grigsby.
Okay.
The Grigsbys were in the Broad Run area. They were in the same area as the Mercers.
So okay, Grigsby, Robinsons.
George Thomas Mercer married, but he didn't have any kids, and his wife passed. So I don't have any information on that. Charles Mercer, he married into the Dades also. Then I have Alice Mercer. She died in 1900. She married into the Robinsons like my great grandfather.
So do you know the names of the Robinsons?
I have names, yes.
Yes, because Doris Chester McGee was a Robinson. So you might be related.
Right. Now the Robinsons are because I know this because my grandfather's named after him. And my great aunt is named after him. The Robinson were William Robinson and Hester Robinson from Thoroughfare.
Hester? Oh, wow. Yes. Aunt Hester lived in Jersey at one point.
Well, I had my aunt Hester lived in DC.
Okay, she lived in DC and then she ventured to Jersey at some point. But okay. I never knew her. She passed before I was born. So
okay,
we may be related.
Different Hester.
You think? How you know?
Maybe I have to look. We'll chat and then we'll see. I'll see what you got.
Okay.
All right. Where was I? Oh, George. I don't know who George is married to. Then we have James Edward Mercer. He went by. Sometimes he went by James, and sometimes he went by Edward. He went by Edward most. He married into the Phillips, and the Phillips from the Marshall area. And the next one was Molly. Her name was Martha. They called her Molly. She married into the Nelsons. I'm not sure where the Nelsons. Well, I take that back. I am sure the Nelsons lived in Pilgrim Rest.
Okay.
Because if you look at some of the land things, you'll see Charles Nelson's property. So they live there. And that just about does it on the family. I have one. The last child, William Mercer, I don't have a lot on. He moved away and he married a Jeter in Syracuse.
Okay.
And I don't have a lot on it. I have the name of the child and all that, but I don't have a really lot on him. So all of those names that that the Mercers married into or married into the Mercers, and all of them were basically in the same area as the Stokes family. And the line goes from Wellington in Manassas. I'll just say Manassas to Gainesville. The Pendletons lived in Gainesville.
Pendletons?
Yes. The Pendletons lived in Gainesville. Then you had Haymarket and the Bills and a few others married into the family with that area. Thoroughfare, if you've been keeping up with the news, they had a whole thing on it with Prince William County. They're making it a historical site now, the graveyards.
Yes.
And Thoroughfare was a free black community. And that's where my ancestors, the Robinsons, came from.
Okay.
And the Grigsbys.
Okay.
And you follow that same line, which is Route 55 in Virginia. You follow that same line from Thoroughfare, you get Broad Run.
Right.
At the bottom of the hill. When you turn up the hill on 600 and go about a mile, then you have Pilgrim Rest.
Right. Yeah, I see that.
So you can see the line. It's a straight line. And back then they didn't have the transportation and stuff like we had, so they didn't go far.
Right.
So in our family, we have some double marriages or double families coming in and cousins marrying each other. Yeah. I'm not sure that they were cousins or not, but it happened.
So early on, when you were talking about Sarah, and you mentioned Gaskins and Pens.
Right.
So the Pens, some of the Pens that we know in Warrenton, like out in, let's see, my Aunt Doris,
yep,
who married Uncle Chester.
Yep, that is my cousin.
She was a Pen, so she's related to you.
Right. Her mother's name was Hannah. If you look, that's one of the things when you're doing research and you're doing ancestry, and how you can tie people together. They kept the names close to the same.
Okay.
So there's if I put in Hannah on my thing, I'll get 15 hits of Hannahs. Right. Through the family.
Okay. Yeah, that happens a lot.
Right, same way and that's how you can say, yes, they belong in this family, because you can look at the names and you'll see brothers' names, you'll see parents' names, and you can.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's right. They had a system.
Mm-hmm. And the Pens, I grew up with the Pens, and I know your aunt all my life. Wow. And up until a couple of years ago, I didn't know that we were kin.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so down in Haiti, on Horner Street and 4th Street, when we were growing up, there was a man named Freddy Pen. And he had his son was Rick. Mm-hmm. He had a daughter named Linda, Mike, and they moved out to Turkey Run. Do you know if you relate to them?
I think so. What I did now, because you can get bogged up and you can get off track.
Right.
If the name for non-direct descendants of George Mercer, or to me, the Lewises, the Paynes, not the Paynes, the Pens.
Right.
I only went like 2 generations. I tied them in, yes, this is the generation that this is where we tie in, and I did
Okay.
that generation and their children.
Okay.
Because if I'd have did their children, and I would just keep on going, I'd have 10,000 names.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
And so a lot of the older ones, 1800s, early 1900s, I have information on, but after that, I don't have information on.
Okay. Okay. That's real interesting. And then you mentioned the Gaskins. Now
Yep.
there are Gaskins up in Markham, up in northern Fauquier, up that way. Does your
Yep,
line
yep.
run up there?
Yes. That part, they run into the family that way. The Gaskins, if through my research, and you have to look at the free slave registrations that they were required to do, you can find out who were free and who wasn't.
Right.
And the major names in Fauquier County and Prince William County was Gaskins, Graysons, Stokes, Pens, and there's Nickens,
Okay.
and they kind of all married into each other.
Okay.
And that's where I kind of lost my track. I'm sorry of what I was going to say.
But they all married into each other. They were all related.
Yeah, they all married into each other because of the laws. Because of the laws and where they lived at.
Right.
Like I say, they didn't travel far.
Right. So do you know any of your ancestors that were of other races?
Not my direct ancestors, but on the Penn side, they are Native Americans out of Lancaster County.
Is that right?
Yes, and they live with the I can't remember the name of the Indian group, but they were free, and they were Indians. A lot of them were Indians. Stephanie probably has more on that than I, because that's more to her side of the family.
Okay, the lines on her. So that's fascinating information. It's really fascinating.
Like I say, Francis Montgomery, who was white, and Hannah was black, his slave. So we tied.
Okay, so that starts back there.
Right.
Yeah. Do you remember telling me when that was? I mean, how far you could trace Hannah back? Was she in which?
I traced Hannah back, and I guess by the birth of her first child, that she was born in 1780.
That's what I was trying to get to. Yeah.
Okay. She was born in 1780. The first child came around in 1901.
Okay. All right.
So that's just as a guess. She could be, back then, age wasn't really a thing. So she could have been younger, or she could have been older.
Right. Yeah. They did very, very young back then.
And that's what you have to do sometimes. When you just have to take a wild guess, and sometimes you take a wild guess, and you can find who you're looking for.
Yeah.
If it's just gay, okay, well, they probably didn't have children until they were 20, and you might be able to find something.
Right. So did you find anything unusual, any real big surprises?
The biggest surprise to me was 90% of my family, and I'm going almost 100% of my family was free. I just assumed my whole entire life that my ancestors were slaves.
Okay, so you came from a freed line all the way back.
Because of the laws and the rules, Sarah and Travis Stokes couldn't marry unless they were free.
Okay.
Now, they did have some free that married into slaves, but I haven't seen any information to contradict what I just said.
Okay, that's good. That's good information. So they were.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
They were born free?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Travis and Sarah wasn't, but their children were.
Okay.
From their children, from Hannah, my great-great-grandmother, from Hannah on up, they were all.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that's amazing. A lot of us can't say that. Some of us.
I didn't, I just went in, okay, my family was more likely slaves. And, you know, over the course of my research, I found out that they weren't, which was, you know, a major surprise.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. So, do we have some questions?
Yes, you said you could go back as far as the 1700s.
Yes, ma'am.
Where does Hannah start? You said they were free when with Hannah's, the extensions of
Okay.
Hannah.
Okay, now remember what I said earlier. There's 15 Hannahs. The original Hannah was born in 1780. That's my guess.
Okay.
My great great grandmother Hannah that married George Mercer,
Yeah.
which was Hannah Stokes also, was born in 1835.
Okay, got it.
Anybody else?
You mentioned the days. They're in Upperville. Are they affiliated? Because that's Fauquier County as well.
It could be. I'd have to get a name and research it. But I know the days in the Warrenton area.
I was gonna say that days that we're out in Frytown.
Right. I know those days we're akin to.
Okay.
That I didn't know my whole entire life either.
So in our church is a woman who's, I'm sorry, Chester.
No, Joanne married a date. So
that's what I was gonna mention.
Her surname, yeah, her surname, I forget. Okay.
Spinney was her surname. But she married her maiden name. But she married a Dade who was a distant cousin of the Dades in Warrenton. Because when I met her, when I came to Mount Pisgah, that was the first connection that came to me. So she knows that her husband is somehow distantly related to the Dades in Warrenton, which means that she probably is related to Adrian.
Yeah. Let me
when you look at it, we're all kids.
Well, yeah.
Let me do something. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I'll give you the name here in just a minute if I can get this computer to act right. Wrong one.
But it's amazing. I like to connect the names with, you know, with people and communities that I know about. So this is really fascinating.
Yes.
Some of the early dates that are in Warrenton today, their ancestors were in the area of Duty.
Duty.
Near Orleans.
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, I don't like I say the dates that's on my tree, they were right, like I say, they didn't go very far. They were right in that same area, New Baltimore, Pilgrim Rest, Broad Run. Now I don't know where they came from before there. Now I'm trying to figure out who married the Dade. I can't figure out who married the Dade. Anybody else have any questions while I'm trying to look this up? There you go.
Yes, Angela had a question about the Grigsbys. If you had any information on to which Grigsbys that Maggie married into.
Okay, I'll get that in just a minute. So I can tell you the head name is Silas Grigsby.
Okay. Okay.
Now the days that I got go to Carolyn Dade that was born in 1820.
Carolyn.
And my what would she be? My great grandmother, Hester Robinson, was a Grigsby from Thoroughfare. So you'll see how they all kind of run into each other family-wise.
Now, is Silas off of Ellen and Roxana Grigsby's line?
Just a minute. I gotta figure out what. No, that's not it. My computer doesn't want to act right. I'm sorry for that.
That's all right.
I got too many names. I got some notes, but I have too many names to.
It takes a while to search it.
Well, the computer just don't want to, it keeps giving me the wrong thing, and that's not what I'm looking for. It keeps wanting me to edit it, and I don't want to edit. While I'm doing this, for those that haven't been on, Ancestry changed their formats of their page
Yes, they did.
recently, and you need, I'm going to start on mine again. I've got double names and stuff all in my tree now. From
Get out of here, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Maybe when I go on there, I just look at the DNA to see who who might be new in my tree. But I have
Now, now you said the DNA, that's one thing that I haven't done. Everything I got on my tree is I didn't do a DNA test. I did strictly research and documentation. I didn't do any DNA at all.
So the names that you come up, you can document from some source, like I was saying earlier, birth certificate or photo
Birth certificates,
something.
death certificates,
Census.
marriage certificate.
Yeah. Because when you came in with your information, you had quite a bit there.
That's the whole complete family. That's
Yeah,
complete family.
that's
And
amazing.
what I did, I'll get back with the Grigsbys in just a minute. What I did with the volumes that I brought up to y'all, that's I went to Hannah Stokes, which is the root of the tree for me.
Yeah.
Then her children, the Gaskins, I did the Gaskins backward. I didn't do the Gaskins forward. I did I did them forward to where it's part of the family, but I did backwards on them, and I only went 2 generations. So I did the Gaskins, then I did the Pens.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of it was, because there was a lot of pens that were free, and they all came. I don't know. I can't figure out why they came to Fauquier County, but they came from Lancaster to Fauquier County.
Wow.
And the ones that lived in Prince William County married into the Stokes family to live in Prince William. Okay.
Question in the chat also.
I'm sorry, I don't have the chat open. I'm sorry.
Okay. It says, do you have any knowledge of Hampton Cole, who married Lydia Pen and lived in Bull Run Mountain near Thoroughfare and next to the Hall family?
What's the name again? I'm sorry, what's the name again?
Lydia Pen, Lydia Pen, and Hampton Cole.
Let me answer this while I got it.
Okay.
The Grigsbys I have start with Mary Ellen Grigsby.
Okay.
But that's one Grigsby. Basilis Grigsby is another group. He's named after his father, whatever it is. The older one is Silas Grigsby. Is it Lydia Pen?
Yes.
The name sounds familiar, but could you spell it again for me?
Lydia.
No, that's why I'm making myself. I don't have a Y. I know that name, and I'm going to say yes. I do know that name.
And some pens are spelled with the E and some with the I.
I have a Lydia Pen that was born in 1829 and died in 1864. I knew it was a Lydia in there. Now she could come from one of the spouses. Oh, there you go. Married Hampton Cole. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
It is in there.
Now, on that tree for them, do you have descendants, children for Lydia and Hampton?
I have a Calvin Newton Cole and a Hampton O'Berry Cole. And it looks like, okay, I got it. It looks like there's one child that's not Hampton Cole named Middleton Penn.
Milton.
And look what else we got here. Lydia comes, I'll give you the tie-in. how they come into it. Lydia's mother is Carolyn Penn. There were four Penn daughters of Peggy Penn. And those four daughters were the ones that tie into our family. The Howelson Penn, the Iman Penn, all of them fall under those four ladies.
Thank you.
And I do have something on just about all of them. No, that's the same Lydia. So, any other questions? I know it dragged it out a little bit. I'm trying to do two things, but any names you want, just throw them at me, and I'll see if I got them, and I'll give you the information of what I have on them. Now, if you want to, after this is over with and you got time, y'all want to, my ancestry webpage is the Hannah Stokes family.
Hannah Stokes. There's a webpage?
Yes. Well, it's the ancestry. The ancestry.
Oh, okay.
The ancestry, the Hannah Stokes family. I have a webpage that's called the Stokes Family, the story of the Stokes family. And the address is The Family Affair, no caps, .webs.com.
And that tells us the story of the Stokes family.
Right, that's the same thing that I'm talking about is on this webpage. I've got pictures. I've got it broken down, the 5 families. I've got copies of the document that freed all of the Stokes children.
Okay.
So I got a little bit of everything there if you want to go there.
Okay.
And I encourage anybody as family members or they see something that's wrong, because I'm not 100% right. I'm about 90%, 95%. So there could be a wrong name or something like that in there, but it's not intentional. It's just what I get offline.
Mhm.
And they bring you on down to the Mercer line.
Right. All the way up into Lord, I can't think. I got his nickname, but I can't think. To Thomas Dawson. He's the youngest. He's the youngest in my family.
Whoa.
And that's the 9th generation.
So coming down to the Mercer line, where you are with your father. Now, what was his name?
My father's name was Kenneth Mercer, but everybody called him Joe. You never know. Most of the people didn't know his real name was Kenneth.
I wouldn't. Everybody called him Joe.
Yeah, everybody called him Joe. That's one of the things. I'm gonna get off just a little bit. That's one of the things when you're researching too. There's a lot of nicknames.
Right. Yeah.
And you have to you can Google and see what some of the nicknames mean. Like Mima is a nickname for Jemima.
Okay.
That sort of thing. You have the Betsies and the Bettys and so forth and so on. So you have to sometimes you have to look at the nicknames and the Eddas, and that sort of thing. Now, like I say, my father's name was Joe. Pretty much everybody in Warrenton knew him. He had one sister, my aunt Clarissa. She was a Johnson. My grandmother was a Johnson from Casanova.
Oh, okay.
The Johnsons, all the Johnsons in Casanova Midland, I'm related to them. I don't have a lot of information on my grandmother. Unfortunately, she passed very young. So, well, she passed, I was young, and we didn't know a lot of her family. I only remember one of her brothers, and I was real small then.
Okay. So your father had that one sister, Clarissa. Did she have children or?
Yeah, she had 3.
Okay.
They were all raised on I'm gonna call her Aunt Doodle because that's what we called her. Aunt Doodle.
Oh, Aunt what? Lula?
Aunt Doodle.
Doodle?
They call her Doodle. And she lived in DC. All of them were raised in DC.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of Mercer. I call it the Great Migration of the 1920s and 30s.
Wow.
I'm gonna say about 90% of the Mercers in the DC phone book we're kin to.
Okay, so they left this area, or the
Yeah,
Prince William and Fauquier area, and went to DC. So,
right. DC and Alexandria, more DC than Alexandria.
okay. So I know we did a lot of talks about the Mercers, you know, and that Stokes connection, but what about on your mother's side?
My
Do
mother
you
was
have
a
much
Carter.
information?
I have a lot of information on her too. My mother's a Carter.
Yeah,
And
how many?
and anybody that's from Fauquier County, you all know that there's about 1 million Carters.
Yeah, right.
And I'm kin to about 900,000 of them. There's
So then, where did she come from?
Turnbull, Fauquier Springs.
Terrible, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Carters came out of Fauquier Springs and Warrenton.
Okay,
Now,
so speaking of
go ahead.
speaking of nicknames and Turnbull, I think about the Carters, I think about Daddy Rat.
Yeah, that's my mother's first
Tomcat.
cousin. That's Tomcat.
Frog.
They're all my mother's first cousins.
Okay,
Buster, all of them.
okay. So who were her parents?
My mother's parents was they called him Mike, but his real name was Walter Harris.
Okay,
That's my grandfather, and my mother's mother was Charlotte Carter.
okay,
But she passed when my mother was young. She passed when my mother was like 5, 6 years old.
okay.
So Emma Carter raised my mother.
Emma.
Emma was her aunt. Emma is Tomcat and Letty Carter and Joe Lewis' mother.
Okay.
For those that know them. I know
Right.
I'm names out there, somebody's
Yeah.
not gonna know who they are.
Yeah, Thomas. Yeah.
Right. Tomcat is my mother's first cousin.
First cousin. Okay. That's really interesting to know.
I'm gonna go back here on the Carters. I want to say Samuel Carter was the first one, but I have to be sure. And I found over the years, like I say, there's some people I just found out recently that I was kin to, I grew up with all of this time. It just showed that's another reason why I want to do the family tree. And it just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's good.
Okay. The Carters start with Thornton Carter in 1850.
Okay.
And he married a Douglas. And like all the rest of them, he had a whole slew of kids too. He's had 9 children.
Right.
The youngest one is my mother's grandfather,
Okay.
which is Samuel Carter.
Samuel Carter.
And if you do the Carter tree, you know, I'm pretty sure you already, the Carter tree has got a lot of the same names also.
Because a lot of people are named after their aunts and uncles.
Right.
Or just
And
tradition.
that's the part sometimes it can trip you up, because when you search a name and you can get a mix of, you might have the wrong Susie
Right.
or the
Yeah.
wrong Susan. You got the right family, it's just the wrong individual.
Yeah.
So you have to double check those a lot.
That's why it's so important to know which line, you know, each one is in.
And I'm sitting here looking at it now, but when I'm talking about it, I can come up with the name because I've seen you get it in your head. And,
Okay.
you know, I can kind of quote a lot of them. I'll say, yeah, that's a name. I may not have all the direct information, but I know that they're in the tree.
Okay. So I see a question that asks, is Travis Stokes related to Spencer Hall?
Travis Spencer. Oh, okay, let me back up. This one I ain't got to look up. Travis Stokes had a son named Spencer Stokes. Spencer married Nancy Hall. So I don't know about this. What was the name again? Hall?
Spencer Hall.
Spencer Hall. I don't know about a Spencer Hall. I know Spencer Stokes married Nancy Hall. That I do know. Yep, Spencer Stokes. He was born in 1841 and died in 1917. And he married Nancy Virginia Hall. I see a Spencer Stokes, but I don't see a Spencer Hall that died in 1967.
So it might be,
That was on the chat question.
yes, from Leslie Grayson.
Nancy very well may be Spencer Hall's daughter. I don't have that tree pulled up beside me right now, but that may be the connection.
Okay, let me see. I don't think I have who Nancy got with. I know Nancy's from the Plain Marshall area. I do know that. Okay, yeah, Spencer Hall is the start of that. Yes.
Yeah.
So as you can see, I have them. I can't remember all of them, but if you give me time, I can run it down.
The ring a bell. So what do you have about their descendants?
The who?
About Spencer's descendants?
Okay, I've got Spencer Hall here. Okay, wait a minute. That's Nancy. Let me click one more time on Spencer. Okay, Spencer. What the only thing I have on Spencer is he married Elizabeth Thomas, nicknamed Betsy,
Okay.
and they had. I only got 2 children. I got Nancy Hall and Elizabeth Lizzie Hall.
Okay.
So that's all I have on them.
We have the Hall tree up here, and it's several children, and it goes down through the generations. Some of them end up in the Plains, and they married into families within the communities throughout Fauquier. One of the descendants, Marjorie Hall Haley, lives here in the Plains. Mimi, who was married to Conway, her sister. So that's where that is. And then
Okay.
Anderson, all those are Hall descendants.
And like I said before, if you look at it, you put the Plains on that line. That falls in the line from Manassas to the Plains. That's basically the line.
Yeah.
Right, on 55.
Right. The Plains is 5-6 miles from Bull Run. I mean Broad Run.
Yeah.
And that was their area of travel.
Yeah. And Spencer Hall has a Southern claim where he's given testimony as to how things were during the Civil War and the property that he lost. And his wife was a blacksmith.
His wife was a blacksmith.
Yeah, she advertised for a blacksmith. They ran a farm there.
See, that's the part I'll read it somewhere. And I'll save it if I find it, but that's why I always come up and see you guys, and I depend on y'all for the good information.
Yeah, well, you have it too.
Yeah.
You rattling it off just like Karen does.
Yeah, but Karen is she's a whole lot of levels above me.
She's good.
Karen can rip off the names of communities I ain't never heard of.
Yeah, right.
And I've lived here all my life, and like she knows all the families. And that's really you guys are the best source of information for Fauquier County.
Thank you.
Thank you. We really truly thank you. So are there any other questions from our visitors?
Prissy.
Yes.
And Karen, hello everyone. My niece, Jeanette, I see that she's on the line. And the question that I posed to you, Prissy, is whether or not you guys can search outside of Fauquier, Prince William, the Virginia area, as far as New York. Do we?
Well, actually, we primarily serve the residents or people in Fauquier County and related to Fauquier County. But an excellent resource is ancestry.com, where you can put information in and get information from people all over the country, all over the world for that matter. So that would be an excellent resource. But you're welcome to arrange an appointment to come here and to search our library, and we can help you to find information that you might need.
Okay.
Would you
Okay.
agree, Karen?
Yes, I would. Yes.
Now, there's also,
Thank you, Ken.
there's also for Prince William County, you can go on their government line, and they'll have some ancestry stuff there on all of the counties. So you can check there also. They'll have census or something. One, Karen, I may have the name wrong. I know you know. There's a Ron Turner
Yeah, that's right.
that did a ton of information on Prince William County. So just Google Ron Turner and you can, he's got a lot. He has a whole lot on there too.
Okay. Thank you.
Other resources for searching genealogy would be the family tree. Is that it?
Yeah, that's Ancestry and Family Search.
Family search.
Yeah. We use Family Tree Maker many times to put our information in so that we can have it on our desktops or notebooks or whatever, if you don't want to go and store that tree on Ancestry.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a lot of search engines out there. If you do the full suite of Ancestry, you can do the newspapers, you can do the military records found in
Right.
Fauquier. So it's a lot of things available to you. There is another question.
After Roberts.
Yeah, Moses Robinson, who was born around 1880, who also lived in Bull Run Mountains, and they're looking for his parents.
Just a minute. I gotta get back. I didn't realize that the notes were coming up at the bottom of the screen. I'm technically handicapped here. Okay. So the Bull Run Mountain is right there where the same thing that I'm explaining on my family. Pilgrim Rest is part of the Bull Run Mountains. Haymarket, Thoroughfare, and all of that. So there's probably a tie there. I don't have anything past William Robinson, but I can look it up. I have a name and a date, so I can find out.
The question also goes on to say that I think they were Alfred Robinson from Loudoun County and Susan Marshall, that they married in 1865.
Okay. So that's further. So William is. Yeah, I have to look it up because I don't have anything but William, but I can search William. William was one of the ones that's my great grandfather's father-in-law. So I only went to that deadline. I didn't go further back, but I can go further back.
Okay.
That's what I was explaining kind of earlier, because you can get caught.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're doing a whole Robinson family, which is not really relevant to what you're doing.
Mhm.
So
Those branches extend. They
Right.
extend. They truly do.
And it'll throw you off. It can be exciting,
Yeah.
but you gotta know how to stop, or you'll get caught up.
Yeah.
That question was posed by Leslie. Leslie, have you explored the Robinsons down by Bull Run by the battlefield?
Yes, and I think that they are a different line of Robinsons than the Moses Robinson that I'm interested in. That is in Bull Run, and then I've followed a lot of his children. Some of them marrying decorums. We've got a Sina, who would be Moses's brother, does marry a Grigsby. but I couldn't tie those Robinsons at the battlefield to these Robinsons at Bull
Okay.
Run.
Now, the Robinson that married to Grigsby, what was that name?
Sina Robinson, born, I think, 1867, marries Gibson Grigsby.
Okay.
And then those are the, as far as I could trace, those Grigsbys are from what is it, Double Poplar and Greenville and that area.
That is, yeah, all of that. See, that's what I'm saying. They're probably related because that's all the areas you just said are all right there. They're all, that's the same community.
Right. If you go north-south from down at like Greenville and then you're right, you come up and you're in Thoroughfare and then you get into Bull Run Mountains and it's not very far to get to the plains. And if you want to keep going north, you wind up in Aldi.
Right.
That's
Mhm.
right, yeah.
And there was a whole Grigsby line that was down at down Greensville.
What am I looking for? I don't know.
And the Jeffries gave a Southern claim testimony. And that would be the Ellen and Roxana, something. I think it's Roxana Grigsby line. And he was living in one place and down, let's say down the road a little bit, his enslaved wife was living. In 1860, the Jeffries are listed as white and the people in his household were these, the Grigsby family. And naturally, I thought they were free people of color, but according to the Southern claims, they were not. They were on a different plantation or a different farm than where he was, but they were cohabitating together.
Okay, I've got for Silas Grigsby, I've got his father, Silas Grigsby, the original Silas Grigsby was born in 1853. And his father was Robert Grigsby. Mother was Ellen. And that's all I have on now. I just have the names. I don't have any dates.
Mhm.
And I've got a census, 1860 census with Silas on it. That's where I got my information for that. Excuse me.
That Ellen, that's the one that's living with the Jeffries.
And what was the other? Robinson, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot on the Robinson. Yeah, because I go back to William, which is my grandfather's grandfather. I don't have anything after that or before that. But I can look it up. And like, another thing that you can do is what I found and how I got my information and how I go about it is when you find somebody's name on the census, you got to scroll 3 or 4 pages up and 3 or 4 pages down.
Right, yeah.
And you will see the relatives or neighbors and that sort of thing. That's another way that you can say, okay, yes, this is who truly who I'm looking for.
And a lot of times the families have different siblings or members who live on streets, the same street, but not in the same household.
Right. So you can't just look at that one page. You have to go a couple pages up and a couple pages down.
That's right. That's right.
And you know what helped me a lot with mine is I had names, but the main thing that I had was the central district of Fauquier County is where my family came from.
Right. Right.
And when I originally started, I went through every page of the census before I found who I was looking for. But Now it's a little better, but
Right.
I went through every page until I found it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, we're
another thing-
coming. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just
Can I
going to
ask,
say,
can I ask one question on this last topic about reading the census? Is when you look at the census records and the census taker was moving house by house and each house gets a number, is there any way when you get in a rural area like Bull Run Mountains or something to figure out those houses on a map related to each other? Because you're trying to spatially figure out where people were. And I sometimes can't make sense of how that census taker was going house to house. And I'm trying to figure out, you know, where people were actually living.
Well, I guess my answer would be to that is if like say I knew where my family started at on Route 600,
Okay.
and I knew this cousin lived right next door and this one lived, so I looked at it that way, and you got the house numbers. I don't think they had a strict house number. It's just okay. This is number 351 I'm doing now. The next one's 352. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Right. And then they jump sometimes and you can't, I just always wish there was a map or some way to follow where that census taker went as they went house to house, but I've never been able to figure it out.
But what you can do is you have to, if you know where, you know definitely where a house is now.
Right.
Google the area so you can get all the little side roads that's around it and zero in on it. Then that'll tell you, give you an idea of where you need to search.
Okay, and then you just got to guess how would you have traveled?
If
Most likely
you,
if we're knocking on doors.
right, if you have a family, on the line and you got
Leslie.
two or three of them on there, you can Google the road and find, you can pretty much figure it out from there.
The other thing that you may consider doing, because for Bull Run area, a lot of that has been mapped and remapped. So if you blow up a map and if you start where someone is sitting with the map and
Mhm.
is sitting with the census, as you go down a map for a certain period of time, because I know they have some maps for Civil War era and thereafter. So if you, let's take the 1860 census and look at those maps that the engineers did during the battles and things like that, because some of them have property owners' names on them.
Yes.
And if you start putting family numbers and dwelling numbers, because that's the two numbers that's going to be on your census. And if you do that throughout that area, that may give you your path.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I have been trying to do. And of course, when you get back up in those mountains, many of the houses don't exist anymore, you know, so
Right. Yeah.
But I need to sit down and do that because I figured that was probably a decent approach. So you've just confirmed that that's what I got to do.
That's what you have to do.
you're on the right path.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. So actually, we come very close to the end of our session. Is there's some closing remarks that you have, Adrian?
Yes, first I want to say thanks for asking me. And you guys really do a great job. And I appreciate that. And anybody that has any questions or look at my ancestry or my webpage, you have any questions, there's ways that you can contact me. I don't have anything to do but look at family trees. I'm retired.
That's a good thing.
In a harass Karen and Chrissy. That's all I have to do.
Well, you're welcome to harass us anytime you wish. I think Karen would agree. It's really not an harassment. But we want to thank you so much for joining us again today. We truly have been delighted to carry on this conversation with you. And you do have a wealth of information, so resourceful. And I'm sure that any of your family members or others who go to your resource, they will be benefited by what you have placed there. And they can carry them on down through the generations. And to our visitors, we want to thank you so much for joining us. It's good to see my sister Pamela, along with my best friend from the old days, Doris, and others who I'm sure are here that I don't see your faces. But we thank you so much for your continued support to us here at AAHA. And 2 weeks from now, on February 8th, at the same time between 1 and 2, we will have a joint discussion with Stephanie Addison Mudd, who we asked to return, and Delisa Lawrence. And they're going to talk to us about their contrasting experiences with becoming members of the Daughters of the American Revolution. So I think you might not want to miss this. And then 2 weeks later, on February 22nd, I will talk with Dennis King, who is a descendant of the King family with roots primarily in Marshall and Fauquier, but they branch out through other counties in Virginia, in the Fauquier surrounding counties. So again, thank you so much. And we hope you will join us again next week, 2 weeks from now, and as we continue these sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I have one other thing? And we'd like to invite you to another Zoom tomorrow evening. We are partnering with members out in Loudoun County, and there's going to be a talk by author Joshua D. Brother, and the book that he's going to discuss will be The Ledger and the Chain, and that's at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. And you can get that Zoom link from our website if you are not on our mailing list for the Zooms.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much, Karen.
All right,
Thank you,
again,
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
A good
God bless.
chat.
You guys keep well and safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.